this game, you can have a lot of credit cards. I know I have 30 credit cards, over 800 credit score. I've banked millions of points from the banks. I know people with over 100 credit cards and pristine scores. So I'm not recommending to everyone listening to go out and do that. But it is not wild to think of a normal person who has this game down getting 3 to 5 credit cards every year. Plus, if you're married, have your spouse get different ones that align, so you're doubling the intake. But trust and believe that there are millions of people around this world that are playing this game and playing it by the rules. There's nothing illegal or negative about this. This is just one of the beautiful parts of living in America, where it's so lucrative to have credit card customers that the banks are willing to throw thousands of dollars to get new clients.
No Free Lunch is presented by T. Rowe Price. The information provided on this podcast is for informational purposes only and should not be considered financial or legal advice. Always consult with a qualified financial and or legal professionals before making any legal or financial decisions or investments. I'm Ndamukong Suh, and welcome to No Free Lunch, where we talk to experts and athletes about how the most successful people in sports manage their money and grow their wealth. Danny, let's go, man. I'm excited about this one. I can't wait. What we got going? Tell the audience.
It's time for a vacation. I need a vacation. We all need a vacation. We're talking to
question.
the points guy. I know you've been excited about this conversation for months and months. We finally got the points guy. I feel like you are another version of the points guy. I
want to be the points guy 2.0, and I hope he would allow me to come into the fold. But man, I'm trying to learn all the magic from him.
Man, from flying in your barber with points to, our conversations about travel. I know you're on top of all the points.
Shout out to Socks. I appreciate you pulling up to Chicago and getting me a fresh cut before I had to go live on No Free Lunch.
Yeah, that was slick. Favorite place you've been to or vacation you've been on this year? I know you've been a lot of places, but favorite place this year?
Favorite place? That's a tough one, man. I didn't get a lot of vacations this off season, as I call it. I'm crazy. I'm retired and I still call things off season. But I mean, Turks and Caicos was a blast. My good buddy Vita was there. He's like a little brother. My boy Bubs, Larry, was there, and his wife. That was kind of like a little bit of their baby moon. And then Carlton Dennis pulled up as well. So Turks and Caicos was cool. Oh, and then we ran into my guy. Why am I drawing a blank on his name right now? Joel Embiid. He was there with his family. So we got to have a dinner. Cameroon fam, we pulled up and all connected. So that was a good time, man. Turks and Caicos ended up being a good trip. So I'll probably take that. It was just a disaster leaving Turks and Caicos. That's why probably I am also a little down on that trip, because we tried to leave, flight got canceled, had to scramble, go get a hotel. Luckily, I had status with my Marriott and pulled up to the JW Marriott. Family was in, good to go.
Yeah.
And then we got back to the airport the next day, and flight was delayed on the brink of being canceled, but luckily took off. And then I told my wife, hey, you and the nannies get to the airplane and get home. Right. If I missed a flight in Houston, I'll figure it out. I'll see y'all the next day. But y'all not missing this flight. You're not going to keep the boys on the road for 2-3 days out of their routine and whatnot. So they raced to the plane, and then I'm sweating and dripping. I pull up like a minute or two later, right before they closed the doors, and I got on the flight and we got home. But yeah, that trip was fun on the front half. On the back half, it was terrible. So points guy, I need some advice. I need to understand, like, when I'm going through these trials and tribulations, how can I get more points? The airline owes me or whatever. I need to figure this out, man. It's crazy. Let's get into it right here with the points guy on No Free Lunch. Let's go. Brian, I can't tell you how excited I am finally able to meet you although virtual, I would love for it to have been in person, but I understand you're a very busy man and always traveling. So nonetheless, bro, I'm excited to have this conversation. Welcome to No Free Lunch.
Thanks for having me.
This is something I would just say, like, I've become very passionate about, which is one, my Marriott points and my nights, and making sure I'm ambassador through and through. Finally got my wife there as well. There's a little hack that they have that allowed her to become up ambassador pretty quickly. But it all started with a buddy of mine. I call him Buzz, but his name is Larry. And we just started this competition. And ultimately, like, I just want to learn and immerse. And yes, I know this is for the audience and the fan, but I'm asking all the questions of understanding what it is like to, one, first and foremost, be in this business, and really, why did you choose to do this type of work?
Yeah. So I would say, like a lot of people with passions, the work sort of chose me. I started the Points Guy in 2010. I was working at Morgan Stanley. I was in a job where I was traveling 6 months a year. And I wasn't getting paid a lot. I wasn't a banker. I was in the HR division doing recruiting. So my job was to recruit all the top computer scientists and convince them to work at Morgan Stanley instead of Google, which you can imagine is pretty hard. People want to go, especially this is 2007 to 11. So, the time was the financial meltdown. So it was a tough sell, but I was traveling nonstop. And during the recession is one of the best times to travel because everyone's cutting back their travel budgets and corporate. I still was traveling. So all the travel companies had crazy promotions. And I learned that in my 20s, I think I was making $70,000 a year, but by maximizing my loyalty, and I had top tier back then it was Starwood, Marriott, Delta, and I was actually earning about $50,000 a year in free travel just by maximizing, the hotels I stay at and my credit cards. And eventually, I think one year I almost made more in the perks of travel than I did in my salary. And my friends eventually were like, this isn't normal, right? So I started blogging in 2010 just to share my tips. I never had a business plan, never had a business model, but, started to build up an audience. And in 2011, I learned about affiliate marketing, where on my little blog, I could monetize my blog posts by, recommending credit cards that I was already recommending. And that was the point that changed my life. I realized I could turn this into a real business because I had credibility. And 15 years later, the business is much, much larger. There's now 170 people at the company. I sold it. I'm still working for it. But the core tenements are true. Like, give people good advice and they're going to be happy to use your links to buy or get credit cards. You
mentioned two companies, travel companies, in Delta and Marriott, which I am very loyal to, especially Marriott. It's a little tougher on the travel side on airplanes, but Marriott, like, if somebody were to bring Hyatt or any other brand to me, I'd be like, no, I'm not staying there. I can't help you. I'd much rather sleep on the road. So do you envision and see from your research and your understanding of everything, Delta and Marriott are the leaders in the space and the most useful when it comes to points and status from that viewpoint? Or what's your opinion from that?
Well, so leaders in the space, I think Delta and Marriott are like the top, most profitable, well-run companies out there in each of their respective fields for the most part. I wouldn't say they're the best for loyalty. So there's an inverse trend there. So Delta, and I would say on the airline front, the best airline loyalty program of the big three US airlines, or let's call Southwest too, I would say American Airlines actually has the best loyalty program with value.
You're saying American Airlines? But I just recently saw on social that they were voted the worst.
Well, so this is what happens when it's a popularity contest. I'm an expert in points currency. So, and I'm not saying that American Airlines is the best airline. In fact, I said the opposite. Delta's like the better airline to fly. But listen to me here, their loyalty program, American's loyalty program, just to put it in, for example, 70,000 miles one way, you can fly Qatar Airways Q Suites to Cape Town, South Africa, one way. Wow. Delta charges 700,000 points one way. So I'm here from like just the points perspective. Delta has done a great job. It's a great airline, the most on time and like nicer cabins. But when you play the loyalty game, you don't care about the actual airline itself, right? I don't fly American. Don't get me wrong here, but I fly American's unbelievable partners. I'm flying to Brisbane on their new suite this New Year's, and it was 90,000 American miles one way business class to Australia. United was 350 one way for a less nice seat, and Delta was something like 500,000. So American of the big three has the best loyalty program. They've got some work to do, but the goal is, you don't really fly on the airline. You just accrue credit cards and points that allow you to accrue American miles, and then you redeem for amazing value. And on the hotel front, Hyatt's the best loyalty program. I think if you ask 10 points top experts, I'd say 9 out of 10 would say Hyatt. They haven't devalued, as much as the other programs.
It's interesting that you say Hyatt too, because there was a friend of mine, we were in London a couple weeks ago, and he said, man, I live and die by Hyatt, and I've been able to have a great experience with them, and they take care of me. They almost bend over backwards and say, man, you should ask for more. We're willing to do more for you because of your status and how much loyalty you are from that standpoint. So would you say for somebody, and again, I'm telling people right now, this episode is for me and me only, but ultimately, like between Hyatt and Marriott, is there a combination of being able to do both? And where do you see ultimately like the ability to have top tier on multiple organizations?
Yeah, so I think if there's one trend over the last 15 years, I think people are becoming more free agents when it comes to their loyalties, because what I've experienced, 10 years ago, that the hotels used to actually upgrade you and give you great perks and shower you. But now with so many credit cards, everyone's elite. There's a saying, if everyone in the nightclub is in the VIP box, is anyone VIP, right? I think there has come a point where some of the hotel loyalty programs have watered down their perks. You're not really getting the suite upgrade that they say they should, or you're having to beg, borrow, and steal for it. I think Hyatt, and another big issue at play here is, people are really switching to what we call transferable points currencies. So people are moving away from a single airline or hotel, and they're getting in bed with Chase Sapphire. They're getting in with Amex Platinum, with Capital One, with Bilt. The credit card companies allow you to transfer to multiple partners. So if you have a Chase Sapphire card, you can transfer to Hyatt and to Marriott and to IHG and to United and Air France and Emirates and all the others. So I think savvy consumers myself, I spend almost exclusively on credit cards that give me really valuable points like Sapphire and Amex points, because when it comes time to redeem, you can transfer them. And I'll just put it into perspective. If you have a bunch of Chase points, if you transfer 30,000 points to Marriott, because it's 1-to-1, you're going to get to stay at maybe a Courtyard. If you transfer 30 points to Hyatt, you can stay at the Thompson in Cabo, which is $1,000 a night. So no one will ever argue Hyatt points are more valuable, and they're at the same 1-to-1 ratio of Chase and of the Bilt, transferable program. So smart, savvy, you're going to get more juice from your Hyatt points. So I think that's where I'm coming from there. Now, the downside is Hyatt does not have nearly as many properties as Marriott. Each program has its pluses and minuses, but I would say, for loyalty, don't just look at the airline you fly or like to fly or the hotel chain. Think bigger picture. Which currencies can I accrue that give me as many options as possible?
Let's start there, because I think you bring up a great point. It's not so much about the loyalty to the brand, it's loyalty to the credit card, if I'm hearing you correctly. And what are those ideal credit cards that someone starting from scratch, let's use me as an example, I'm full board into the game, and I want you to architect everything for me top to bottom, and let's start with credit cards. Where do I start? Because I have a credit card for all my travel. Should that be an Amex? Should I have you mentioned the Chase Sapphire? I have also a JP Morgan Reserve. Amex Platinum or Amex Centurion? Like, where should I start to build out my credit card platform, and what should I be using for that? Because I know there's certain points for, like, you get better points from travel, better points from buying food and different things like that. So help me break down that and go from there.
So when getting a credit card, there's two main categories to look at. The points you're going to get. Now, both earning. So how does that credit card let you earn points? What categories are they going to give you a bonus? And then redeeming. So you want to choose a credit card that allows you to transfer to the partners that, you know, like Marriott. If you're a Marriott guy, you're going to want a credit card that if you need to top up your account to get to that 5th free night, that you have that flexibility. And the second piece of cards, especially as we get into these premium credit cards where you're paying $800-900 a year, is the perks. So as travelers, you know, we all want valuable points, but we also want to get into the lounges. We want access to US Open tickets, et cetera. So the first thing everyone should do is just write down, and this, a lot of people don't like to look at this, but look at what you spend in a year and then categorize that where you spend your money. Most people are spending a lot of money on dining, on groceries, on travel. There's also a credit card BILT, B-I-L-T, for anyone out there who's paying rent. This is the only credit card where there's no fee to pay rent. I repeat, this is something that's very hard for people to understand because a lot of landlords will charge 3%. With BILT, there's no annual fee for the card and no transaction fee to pay rent. And those points can transfer to Marriott or Hyatt or United and a bunch of others. So they're really valuable.
Wow.
So you basically, your goal in life is to get at least 1 point for every dollar you spend. Now, if you have mortgage or some other categories like daycare, there's, you know, a lot of times they're not going to let you pay with the credit card for free. But your goal is to not just get 1 point, but get credit cards that juice you the most. What people don't realize, a lot of people will get the Amex Platinum and assume it's the best Amex card. Now, it's the best Amex card for perks because you get Delta lounge access when flying Delta, the Centurion lounges. It's great. But it's really, for most categories, 1 point per dollar, which is not very good. The Amex Gold card, I'd say for intro people, if you want, backing it up, I think everyone should have an Amex and at least a Visa or a MasterCard, right? So when you're looking at your first Amex, the Amex Gold card is really tough to beat. It's 4 points per dollar on all dining and groceries. So that is a big category for most people. We're all eating every single day. But people are always shocked that, like, wait, the gold card earns more than the platinum. Yes. Now, the gold's not going to get you into fancy lounges, but that you can answer that question, you know, later. But for core points earning, that card's hard to beat. I think the Chase ecosystem, most people are going to say, you know, for an intro card, the Chase Sapphire Preferred, it's $95 a year, but it's double points on all travel. And by the way, that travel includes, you know, public transit, parking, tolls. It's a really wide travel category. And it's not just airlines and hotels, but, you know, cruises and travel agents, et cetera. And then double on dining. So the Chase Sapphire, the Amex Gold, and then, you know, BILT. If you pay rent, you should have a BILT credit card. And next year they're launching mortgage, where you're going to be able to earn points on mortgages, which is huge.
I need that.
They rack up real quick. And then I would say the Capital One Venture card is 2x. You know, there's double points on everything. So the goal is to kind of be getting, you know, I'm going to put my 4x on my Amex Gold. I want to get, you know, certain cards for certain things. And now people might be thinking, well, why didn't I mention, you know, the Marriott, the American Airlines or Delta card? Those cards I only recommend spending on if you have to hit a certain spend threshold to get elite status. No one, if you're listening to this and you're spending on, you know, oh, I've had my United card forever, I get United miles. You are doing yourself a disservice, because if you had a Chase Sapphire, you'd be earning more points, and you can still transfer to United 1-to-1, as well as 13 other partners. So if you want to take a flight to Dubai for your, you know, special occasion, if you're only accruing, you know, your Delta or United, you cannot transfer those miles to Emirates. But with Chase points or Amex points or Capital One, you can. So the main goal is to just get really flexible point currencies with credit cards that align with the brands that you can transfer to whenever you want to take a trip.
That's amazing advice, man. And I'm learning something new every single time I watch obviously your Instagram, and obviously now being lucky enough to have a conversation with you. What type of budget does somebody need to have for these specific cards to be of great value to them? In addition to that, like, where do you see it from a perspective of, yes, this is the ultimate thing you should be doing for like a catch-all card if you're only able to have one card and qualify for one card from that perspective?
Yeah. So let me be very clear up front. In order to win at the points game with credit cards, you have to understand credit. You have to understand how the system works. And simply put, if you're carrying balances, do not get a points credit card. Let me say it louder, because the APRs, the interest you're going to pay on a rewards credit card in general is much higher than if you had a zero balance transfer card. You need to be able to pay off your bills in full every month, or else all that 20, 30% interest you're going to get hit will negate all the value of your points. So this game, to win at, truly, you need to be financially strong. You need to have self-control, that if you're going to get a new credit card with a $20,000 credit limit, that doesn't unlock in your head, okay, well, let's start spending outside of our means. I think most people, though, if you're spending cash for these purchases anyway, it's really, really unwise to use a debit card for so many reasons. Number one, you're foregoing points, which are really valuable. But number two, protections. Credit cards come with so many more protections than debit cards. If your airline goes bust, if the retailer's a fraud, yes, banks will eventually give you your money back if someone steals it from your checking account, but you might be in a tight spot for a while. With the credit card, that money was never yours. You call the credit card company, they don't pay it. You never have to pay a cent. But getting into how much do you need to spend? Look, we have college kids with minimal incomes playing this points game masterfully. And the beauty of it is, once you understand how FICO, the main credit score works, you actually get rewarded for having more available credit open. So each year you could be opening up 1 to 3 new credit cards that each have a 100,000 point bonus, which could be 2,000 in value. So all of a sudden you could unlock for yourself $6,000 in travel value from signups from credit cards. And then you might be thinking, oh, that's going to destroy my score. Well, no. Yes, there's a 2 to 5 point ding whenever you apply for credit, but that goes away after about 6 months. And your credit score, the two main factors are, number one, paying on time. So just as long as you pay your bills on time, now you should be paying in full, because number two is your debt to credit ratio. This means the more available credit you have to you and the less that you're using, your score shoots up. So as you get more credit cards and have more available credit, and you're smart and you pay them off every single month maniacally, like I told you to, your score goes up. Which actually later in life, so playing this points game, I think is good for people when you know how to play it, because it actually increases your FICO. So in a couple of years, when you apply for a mortgage, your FICO score is going to be higher, which locks in lower rates, which can save you thousands of dollars. So not only are you taking in short-term value from the credit card companies, because there's so much competition out there, they're all battling for your business. And you get to short-term value, but long-term, as long as you're paying your bills off on time and being smart about your credit, it actually unlocks even better opportunities long-term by having a really high credit score. But to answer your question, though, you don't need to be spending a lot of money, because a lot of these sign-up bonuses are, 100,000 points, $3,000 or $4,000 within 3 to 6 months. So you just have to make sure you're not overspending. But everyday people can put their expenses, you're earning 4x points on all your dining and Uber Eats and Instacart. It adds up really quickly. And beyond credit cards, there's other ways to play the game as well, like online shopping portals where you get extra free miles. So you do not need to be a millionaire to play this game.
No, I love it. So if I heard you correctly, opening up new cards every year for the welcome bonuses is actually a good thing, potentially.
Absolutely. You get, what could be a couple $1,000s from the sign-up bonus. You pay that bill off. You keep the account open. I don't recommend opening and closing credit cards, because the banks see that as fraudulent behavior. So never cancel a credit card. My recommendation is always, if you don't want to pay an annual fee, call the credit card company up and say, hey, can you waive it? Or can you give me a bonus to keep it? And if they say no, then you downgrade that card to a no annual fee version, so that you keep the line of credit open, you keep the relationship with the bank, if they look at you and you're just opening and closing credit cards and taking that money, it's very greedy behavior. But if you keep the account open and it's no, my
No
point is
fees. Who cares?
be a good customer. This game, you can have a lot of credit cards. I know I have 30 credit cards, over 800 credit score. I've banked millions of points from the banks. I know people with over 100 credit cards and pristine scores. So I'm not recommending to everyone listening to go out and do that. But it is not wild to think of a normal person who has this game down, getting 3 to 5 credit cards every year. Plus, if you're married, have your spouse get different ones that align. So you're doubling the intake. But trust and believe that there are millions of people around this world that are playing this game and playing it by the rules. There's nothing illegal or negative about this. This is just one of the beautiful parts of living in America, where it's so lucrative to have credit card customers that the banks are willing to throw thousands of dollars to get new clients.
Yeah. So Brian, I have an amazing question for you. And it's kind of 2-part. One, where does somebody start to get help, to get architect being able to, one, start with a single credit card and then moving up to 20, 30, potentially 100 if they ever aspire to that? So that's my first question. And then I want to come back into the family piece, because the family piece is key to me. I'm married. I want to understand how my wife can continue to build her credit up and grow. And I know where our credit can be. She can leverage my good credit, and she has good credit regardless, because we were fortunate enough we had scholarships in college and didn't have to go through the brain damage from there. But then also, how can I help my kids being 4 years old right now? How can I start to build their credit and also get bonuses and things of that nature? So back to my first one, like, if I wanted to hire you, would you, and how could I architect being able to be the best in the game or second best in the game behind you?
So interesting. I started the Points Guy in 2010. I was doing this. I was consulting. I was helping people book award tickets. That was my original business. And I realized that it's hard to scale that when you yourself the commodity and there's only a certain amount of time. So I no longer do personal consulting, but there is a company out there called Point Me. So it's point.me. And it's a tool that'll help you use your points, but they also have a concierge service. So you can pay, I think, a couple $100 to speak to a points expert who will tell you, get these credit cards, these are the best offers, et cetera. But I think most people can do this on their own. I mean, at the Points Guy, which is my website I founded, we have beginner's guides. On Reddit, there's a huge community of miles and points people in the credit card space. That subcategory is called churning on Reddit, and your mind will be blown. And I think for people, I like going to Reddit too and seeing other people firsthand, the mistakes they made. But there's a lot of other blogs out there that I love in the miles and points world. 1 Mile at a Time. He's in aviation. He's an OG points person. I mean, I say to anyone, you can Google or use AI today and just be like, tell what is the best credit card for someone who lives in New York City, who pays rent, who spends a lot of money in these categories. AI is not perfect yet. We're working on an AI solution, but there's so much information on the internet. Any question that you think you might have right now has been answered by experts on the internet. So, it might take a while. I would recommend first, for people who have points, at least become a master of the currency that you have. So if you're sitting on a boatload of United miles, you're not using them a lot, like at least become an expert in the best ways to get more value from United or whatever. And on to the second point, we call this 2-player mode. If you're married, partnered, it doesn't have to be one person. And I do not recommend, don't get an additional card on your spouse for your spouse's spending, because your spouse or partner could be getting different cards with huge sign-up bonuses that actually give you, you can double the amount of categories you're earning rewards by leveraging different cards, getting different perks with different hotels. And as for kids, and by the way, I should have plugged my book, How to Win at Travel. I came out with it this year.
How to win.
How to Win at Travel. Yeah, I wrote it this year. Did
Congratulations.
really well, became an instant New York Times bestseller. So you should be able to find it wherever you get books. But I tell a little bit of my story, but also everything I'm talking about today in detail. I go into the credit card game, all the different ways to save money on flights, booking flights. There's so many hacks people don't know. Even after you book a flight, you can still track the price. And if it drops, you can get credits. Most people do not. Once they book a flight, they're like, that's it. But did you know most of the time when your flight drops, most airlines will give you a credit for the difference. You just have to know and ask. But as for kids, putting kids as additional cardholders on your credit can give them credit histories that predate their birth. So parents who want to, instill good spending habits with their kids you can start off with, you can set the credit limit to $200, but getting kids understanding how to use credit. I personally didn't really have that. My parents are amazing, but they were kind of like figure it out on your own type parents, which I got into credit card debt in college. I made dumb decisions. I moved out of my fraternity house and I thought my Verizon bill would never catch up to me. And then I'm working in New York and they were going to garnish my wages. So I made a lot of mistakes. It doesn't have to be that way. And I think early financial education, there's certain things you can do to really set your kids up for success so that when they graduate college, they don't need you to co-sign for anything. That's the beautiful thing about credit. Like it's doable, it's winnable. You just have to know how to play by the rules.
It's great advice. And I definitely want to get your book myself, being a part of the New York Times family as well. I'm curious, you mentioned Dubai a couple times and being able to fly with your kids. I've seen your Instagram and flying with, I believe, your son and whatnot. How do you fly as a family and how do you operate, making sure everybody's comfortable? And I remember the first time we went over to Dubai as a family, my boys were under 2. So we were in the pods together, but they're 4 and they're massive. So they need to have their own space. If I wanted, I'm going to give you a scenario. If post-Christmas I wanted to go to Dubai with my wife and two boys, how would you potentially architect that or would suggest?
So I will say, I'm 6'7", so I don't fit in coach, period. And I certainly don't fit in coach with the baby on my lap. So for me, and I have a 3-year-old and a 10-month-old now. And actually this year we'll have hit all 7 continents. We're about to go to Antarctica. So I've done a lot of travel with 2 kids, very small. I also, full disclosure, bring a nanny everywhere I go. No shame.
Man. That's how it's with kids. It's not necessarily a vacation. It's just changing locations and doing the same thing. Yeah.
So using points. I mean, when the kids are really young, they will sit on, a nanny's lap. But when you've got a lie flat bed, it's not so bad. You can have a baby laying down. But it's all about the points. And there are certain points programs. I talk about it in my book. I have an entire chapter on family travel and a whole chapter on health and traveling, what you need to do to stay healthy while traveling. But, it's all a mindset. I think a lot of traveling parents are look, parenthood is stressful, period. Plus you take out, your comfortable habits of being at home and will my kids sleep in a random crib from a hotel or, will the lighting be dark enough? I know that's something that always screws my kids up when there's, non-blackout shades. So I get it. But once you control as many variables as possible, traveling with kids is incredible. Jet lag, kids are a lot more resilient than we give them credit for. But back to your question about Dubai. So in my book, I talk about there are a lot of tools out there. So Point Me was one of those paid tools. If you wanted to go to Dubai, there's a tool called seats.aero. It's a website. Seats.aero is an incredible tool that will let you actually search, for example, in this case, Emirates business class.
Yeah.
You could search from New York or Boston or Chicago, any of the East Coast airports where Emirates flies to, or you could just put any of the US airports. And you could say, show me over the next year or just within December or just within this week of December, show me every day that there's business class award availability. And this is how I tell people, this is how you snag the best flights. You're flexible and you can search up to a year at a time. So if you want to go on a spring trip with your boys, you're not beholden to a school schedule. You could actually just show the full month of March and it'll show you every day there's 4 tickets for Emirates business class. From there, you work around when there's availability and the airlines, they keep opening up seats. So these tools like Seats.aero, you can set an alert. It may say there's only 2 seats in business class. You could book 2 seats and then set an alert. So whenever they open up more seats, you can actually book it. And one of the cool things about using points is you can always cancel and almost every program will give you your points back maybe a tiny fee, but all the US programs, you can cancel your points reservations for free up until you leave. And this is a great safety net so that you can keep playing your options. This is what the experts do. I'll book 4 tickets to Dubai. And then if they open up first class, or I can fly, through Paris and actually do a couple of days there to break it up with the kids. So that's why using points is so much more flexible than when you pay for tickets. Because when you buy a ticket and you try to change it, they charge crazy fees. You get vouchers you're never going to use. With points, it's a currency. It's like refundable tickets. You get all your points back. So even last minute, if a kid gets sick, you click 2 buttons, your 1,000,000 points are back in your account. If you had paid for that, you might have to argue with the travel insurance company, scream at an airline agent, beg for mercy. You don't do any of that with points. So that's the enlightenment aspect when people realize how valuable points are, because they give you flexibility. And it goes the same if you're on leaving New York City lately, Newark, it's been chaotic. If I have to get somewhere, I use points on a second airline from the same airport later in the day. So if my one flight gets delayed or canceled, I've got my backup. But if my original flight goes out on time, I click 1 button and get all my points back. So that's why, whenever there's a delay on a plane, I don't sit there and wait in the 2-hour line at the airport. And I look at all those people. I'm like, by the time you get to the agent, all the seats on the next flight are out. That's why empowering yourself with the information to get on your phone, rebook, use points. And so really, points are like an insurance policy when traveling.
It's funny. I did that when I was leaving New York. I think maybe a couple months ago, I booked 2 flights, but I didn't use points. But that's a key piece. Use points and get them right back. We've talked about hotels and Hyatt and Marriott being some of the most advantageous and probably the best hotels, especially from my viewpoint. I want to talk a little bit about Airbnb and VRBO. Like, how do they come into play in the point system? And is there anything special in and around what they potentially offer for you to look at different things? You'd mentioned traveling with nanny. Like for me, my wife, my 2 boys, it's a minimum of 3 rooms. And then we bring extended family. We were in Turks and Caicos earlier this year, and I think I had 5 rooms staying at a very nice hotel. But if you were to have a house in something from Airbnb or VRBO, how would you set up something from those organizations as well?
Yeah, so it's interesting. In addition to the points guy, I'm an entrepreneur. I've started a bunch of companies where I feel like there's a big gap in the market. And I think with vacation rentals, there's a huge gap because Airbnb has said they don't want to do loyalty. They're too good. They don't need to give points or have any sort of loyalty, which I think is a huge strategic misstep. Vrbo sort of had a program, but their one key program. But I rented a villa in Mykonos with Vrbo and tried to earn points with it, but they were like, "Oh no, you can't earn in a foreign currency." I'm like, "So you have a global program that doesn't allow you to earn globally?" It's a very minimal program. I think they've scrapped the team that launched that program. So I'm starting a company called Journey Rewards, which it has launched, and we have some of the most incredible, ski chalets, multifamily homes across the country in really cool spots where you can actually earn and redeem points. Also with cool boutique hotels. I think a lot of people want to stay at the nice, you don't always want to stay at a Marriott or a Hyatt. You want to go in Europe, you want to stay at a really cool boutique hotel. So that's what Journey's all about, really unique properties around the world. But as of now, there's really no good points. What I would say is if you're going to book vacation rentals, you can use Capital One points. And once again, you earn 2 points on everything. And villa rentals and Airbnb, you can actually redeem your points for those purchases. So while Airbnb and Vrbo don't have great points programs, you can actually redeem certain credit card points like Capital One miles for pretty much any travel purchase. So Capital One miles are good to have. You can redeem that for the car service to the airport. You can redeem that, for tours, depending amusement parks. That's what I tell people. And each points currency, Amex points are great for transfers to airlines, but not so much hotels. Chase is actually really good with hotel transfers because they have Hyatt 1-to-1, which can give you great value. So I would also tell people who are looking to book multiple rooms, don't have that many hotel points, the credit card companies now offer the ability to book any hotel through their travel. So if you have Chase points or Amex points or Capital One, there's 2 main ways to redeem for travel. The one that in general I get the most value is transferring. So transferring to the different airline or hotel partners. But sometimes the hotel you want to stay at isn't a part of a chain. So you can actually usually book that through Amex, Find Hotels or Chase Travel. And if you have the Chase Sapphire Reserve, you can now redeem your points at 2 cents a piece for their, what they call the edit hotels, which are really nice hotels all around the world. So this is why, if you transfer one Chase point to Marriott, you're going to get less than a cent per point in value. If you book a hotel through Chase's The Edit, through Chase Travel, through their points boost, you're getting 2 cents per point. So this is why even if you were booking a Marriott hotel, it wouldn't make sense to transfer your Chase points and book it. It would make sense to pay for that hotel through Chase Travel and their points boost program. So I know this is confusing to a lot of people, but I want people to at least understand that there are different ecosystems. When you have these top points credit cards, you can transfer, you can book directly through, the credit card travel portal. It gives you a lot of different options than just having one specific hotel point where you're locked in with that hotel company and you can't really transfer them out.
So I want to create and open up a new segment that I want to call "We Don't Gatekeep" with you, Brian. If you're good with that, especially with being a travel expert and obviously the points guy, I'm going to give you some rapid fire questions. So the first one is your favorite credit card for frequent flyers.
I'd say Chase Sapphire Reserve. Their lounges are beautiful and the points are super valuable.
Okay, love it. Next one, tropical city where you get the most bang for your buck.
Ooh, I'd have to go to Thailand.
Yeah.
Thailand, it's far to get there, but man, it is so cheap once you get there, and I've
heard
live
great things about Thailand.
Yeah.
Okay. Most overpriced city to travel to. I say New York.
I was just gonna say New York because not only are things expensive, but now you need to tip 30%, 40%. You need to grease. I'm a member of a private club or a couple in New York, and I can't even get in unless I grease the doorman. Like New York is crazy.
Yeah, for sure. And I'm on my way there in like a couple of days. So for sure. All right. 2 more for you. Favorite place you visited in 2025 that you would love to revisit in 2026?
Well, I love South Africa. I go almost every year. So I probably will be back again in 2026. But when I tell you the people, the culture, Cape Town is this beautiful city on the beach. The wine country outside of Cape Town, 45 minutes. It will blow away any wine country you've been to. And then I'm a huge safari guy. And I just did Royal Malawan. I think is Royal Malawan, Cheetah Plains, and Singita Labombo. Those 3 I've done and are just unbelievable. Yeah. Have you done safari?
I've done one safari. I did Tengail, if I'm not mistaken, and it was an amazing time. Me and my wife went right during the pandemic, in January of 2020. It was a blast.
I love it.
So yeah, I was gonna have a little follow up there, but you already answered it. So thank you for that. And then last one for you: destination you are most looking forward to traveling to in 2026.
I'm ringing in the new year in Sydney. And I've been to Australia before, but I hear Sydney New Year's is unbelievable. And then on the way home to rest up, I'm going to go to Fiji, which is only 4 hours from Sydney, to kind of break up the flight home. I think that's going to be a nice way to kick off 2026.
Okay. I love it, man. I've only been to Melbourne and Brisbane, but I want to hear about this Sydney trip. Hopefully we can stay connected. I got another quick question for you. What are the 3 best travel tips or hacks that you have?
So first, we're recording this during the government shutdown, and TSA security lines are getting crazy. So, everyone knows you've got to get global entry. I'm telling you, there are credit cards out there. It's $120. It's free for your kids. Listen to me, everyone. Even if you only go international once a year, every other year, it's worth it because it also gets you TSA pre-check, which is a must-have. Now, for those rolling their eyes, I also recommend getting Clear, which will bring you to the front of the line. And
Yes,
get
sir.
this, if you have TSA PreCheck, there's a little known program called Touchless ID. And if you fly Delta, United, American, Southwest, or Alaska, you have to go into your app. And as long as your passport number is stored and your known traveler number, you can enroll. Delta calls it digital ID. And this gets you access at the top airports across America. It's a secret TSA lane that usually has no line. So if you have TSA PreCheck, make sure you are opted in your app to this program. It can save you a ton of time, even if you have PreCheck. So it's a free program for those who have PreCheck and their passports stored in their frequent flyer accounts. And then, okay, so is that one tip or two tips?
Those are two tips. Because those are amazing tips that I have already subscribed to.
I would say my third tip is if you want to hunt for cheap flights, you've got to master Google Flights. And so Google Flights will let you search from your hometown to whatever city you want. But when you go to google.com/flights, there's a tab that says Explore. So if you're just looking for the best deal, if it's winter and you just want to go to the Caribbean, you can put in your home city. And then in the Explore map, you can put in Caribbean and then sort it nonstop flights, business class, coach, whatever you want. And it'll show you a map of the Caribbean and show you all the cheapest flights. And my main tip in life with points or whether you're buying travel is be flexible. That's how you find the best deal. The airlines are, there's no one best day of the week or 2 p.m. on a Tuesday. That's all a myth. That's the way it used to work. The way it works now is that the airlines have really smart, programs pricing flights, but sometimes there's great deals to certain islands for whatever reason. So if you want to, especially if you're a family traveler, you want to save money on airfare so you can actually spend it on eating out and doing cool things, be a little bit open with where you travel. Instead of flying into Paris, you could easily fly in for half the price to Brussels and it's a 1-hour train ride. Right. So that's where you've got to start thinking outside the box. That's how you save money so you can actually spend it on the things you care about.
So, Brian, you mentioned it briefly about it being a myth. And I think everybody sees it as Tuesday after 12 p.m. Pacific or Eastern. That's the best time to go buy a flight. Like, what is your suggestion when it comes to being able to time and plan out things like that? Do you need to do it 2 weeks in advance, 3 months in advance, 6 months in advance, or it doesn't matter? You just need to be exploring and find the best opportunities?
Yeah. So in general, international travel, you want to book 3+ months out. It gets really expensive last minute with very few exceptions. Domestic travel, I would say 6 to 8 weeks before departure is generally the sweet spot when the prices hit the lowest and then they start increasing to take advantage of business travelers. And I would say for award tickets, booking a year out can be a good strategy. But, who really has the foresight to see what their life is? Last minute, you would be shocked. If you need to go somewhere last minute and you see airfare through the roof, pull up your frequent flyer mile accounts, go to point.me and use their search engine. If you have Amex, that tool is free or built. But basically last minute, when flight prices are sky high, you might be shocked at how many options there are to use your points at the best rate possible. Because the airlines want to fill every single seat. But they want to take advantage of those business travelers. So airfares are high, but they're still willing to allow people to redeem points just to fill the seats.
Man, I love it, Brian, man. Those are amazing tips and hacks and greatly appreciated. I don't know if I'll be able to do the third one and being as flexible, but I will try my best, especially for family vacations, so I can save a couple of dollars here and there. But it behooved me not to ask you, as I ask every single guest, my last question for you. What is the biggest price you've had to pay for a breakthrough in your life to date?
I mean, I've had personal sacrifices, but let's think about something I paid for. I would say in 2020, I burnt out from my job. I was burnt out from managing this company that was just a blog. It was 100 employees. And during the pandemic hit, I kind of needed a pandemic hobby. And I was taking my nieces at the time to horseback riding lessons. And I asked the instructor, I was like, I'm 6'7", I'm 37-year-olds. Can I start riding? And he said, get the hell up on the horse. So I started riding horses and fell in love with it. It was, for those who have spent time on horses, they're like incredible beasts. Yeah. And so that I spent 20 grand and leased a horse for a year, and it changed my life. It really, helped me kind of reset from my corporate burnout. And that was when I decided to have kids and kind of change my life. So I would say spending money on a new hobby and on a horse, as crazy as it sounded, like helped me go through a life reset that I needed to have.
No, man, I love that. And horses are amazing. And I've been fortunate enough to be around some, and my mom, not my mom, excuse me, a close friend of mine has a horse. As they're very therapeutic, to say the least.
Totally.
Being in and around them. So,
Yeah.
But I lied a little bit because I thought that was going to be my last question. It behooved me not to ask you this. What do I need to do to get you out of retirement to work with me one-on-one on all my credit card and all that stuff?
Well, you know what? I gotta stay fresh. So, I think we can do that as long as you listen to what I say. I hate when I help people and they're like in one ear out the other, but I think you're going to be a good student. So I think we can
I'm
work something out.
I'm a great student and I am a great mentee. So count me in. We are going to get this done because I am excited. And I appreciate you joining No Free Lunch, but I've been excited for this conversation for days, and I wish we could have met in person. But again, we'll find an opportunity to connect and go from there. I'm your new mentee, so I appreciate you.
I love it. Awesome. Well, safe travels to New York, and I'm here anytime you have questions.
T. Rowe Price proudly sponsors No Free Lunch. The views expressed in this podcast are those of the podcast participants and do not necessarily reflect those of T. Rowe Price. Their sponsorship supports the platform and does not imply endorsement of specific content or perspectives.
Oh, wow. What an amazing conversation with Brian Kelly, aka the Points Guy. An amazing recording. Loved every bit of it. I'm excited to be his mentee because I'm about to be on his hip and learning all through and through. A key thing there is understanding the financial literacy aspects of how you need to pay off your cards and manage them. You have to study and educate yourself. Knowledge is power. Thank you for watching No Free Lunch. What an amazing conversation again. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe to No Free Lunch on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you get your podcasts, or I will come find you.